artist. My job is to make drawings, not to make sense. The seriousness of play. It's about saying, in the looseness of trying different things, images and ideas emerge. So it's about not knowing what something means in advance. It's always kind of been in between the things I thought I was doing that the real work has happened. I think there has to be a fundamental insistence on having to leave a kind of snail trail behind of who one is and what one's been. I started off drawing the way all children draw. It's not unusual. All my years in university, I was kind of drawing while waiting to see what I would become. And then went from drawing into theatre school because I was acting at the same time, and when that was a disaster, I started working in the film industry and worked in the television industry, ostensibly as production designer, but essentially that meant carrier of my friends' furniture to put on the sets. And when I was lying awake at 4 in the morning in a panic about, did I have the right period matchbox for the shoot in the next day, I knew, no, this isn't what I should be spending my life doing. And at a certain point, a friend of mine, to whom I'd always complained, saying, what job should I get, what should I really do, explained to me in no uncertain terms, he said, you're now 25, 28, you've never had a job, you are unemployable. Stop talking about someone giving you a job. No one will give you a job. Do what you're doing and make a success of it or a failure of it, but stop imagining that there's going to be a different trajectory for you. Sorry. Oh, okay, all right, that's what I'll do. Okay, I'll make drawings, fine. Let's give it a go. You can switch the camera.
No.
Okay, wait and drop. Switch, okay, hard now. That's it, keep going. Okay, and now stop. Just going to check that it worked. I ended up as an artist. It wasn't a decision I made, it wasn't a choice. It was what I was sort of reduced to. There was part of me that only knew I existed if I made some kind of external representation of it on a sheet of paper. The important thing about the first animated films I made is they were done as a response to doing something which I thought I understood, which was making charcoal drawings. They were done on the basis of trying to get away from doing drawings, having exhibitions in which I could see my life heading out ahead of me, 30 more solo exhibitions of charcoal drawings. So I decided I had to do something that wasn't going to be in a gallery, that was done for my own interest and pleasure. And Soho and Felix came out of that. The two names came out of a dream. I don't have to question who these names are, what they mean. They then understood later on that they're both a kind of self-portrait in the third person. The films opened an enormous door because they gave me a sense of it was possible to work without a program in advance. That if you work conscientiously and hard at it, and there is something inside you that is of interest, that is what will come out. I think a lot of the work that I've done since then, even if it's not using that technique, has certainly used that strategy. The provisionality of drawings, the fact that they're going to be succeeded by the next stage of the drawing, was very good for someone who's bad at knowing when to commit something to being finished. Here the drawing would go on till the sequence was finished in the film, and that would be the end point of the drawing. Understanding of the world as process rather than as fact. Temperamentally, all of those things made sense to me, and intellectually they made sense to me. And somehow this technique allowed that to come forward. A short history of Jews in South Africa in my family. Someone tries to kill the Tsar in the 1880s, and there's a pogrom unleashed against Jews throughout the far reaches of the Russian Empire. And there's a huge exodus of Jews from Lithuania and Latvia, Poland. Most South African Jews, including my family, come from Lithuania. My great-grandfather, who was a chazan, a singer, whose name was Kantorovich, which is the son of cantors, came first to northern England and from northern England to South Africa. And there in 1908, he changed the name to this completely fictitious anglicized name, Kentridge. My grandfather was a member of parliament for 40 years. Obviously, we're talking here in South Africa, a whites-only parliament. My father was involved with a number of very prominent cases which had political aspects to them, whether it was the inquest into the Sharpeville massacre or the death of Steve Biko or one of the trials of Nelson Mandela. It was very much a house in which a kind of incandescent rage against what was happening would emerge. One of the reasons for my father's extraordinary skill as an advocate was that there was a real sense of outrage, not a performance of outrage, a real sense of outrage which was then enacted in the courtroom, which was a very powerful thing to see in my childhood. Johannesburg exists because gold is under the ground, invisible. It's also a city of a dichotomy between very leafy suburbs, which are man-made, to a very bleak landscape around, a complete fiction. All the mountains that are there are mountains which have been taken out of the ground from the mines. The history of the city is, of course, the history of two cities. A white city and black people living either invisibly in the city or in areas around the city. You didn't expect to see black people at the swimming pool or in the bus except at the back. How could people manage to survive in those physical conditions, but how could they survive psychically the degradation and the abuse to which they were subjected daily in a completely casual, unconsidered way by white people in South Africa? The work is sometimes about trying to recreate the strength of a passion when it was first felt, whether it's anger or distress. Remember when you first saw someone beating someone else up in public, and that was when I was driving down a street with my grandparents, and just driving past a side street, looking up the side street, saw a man lying on the ground and 5 people kicking his head. And then we were passed and on to the next road, and it was kind of such a completely fundamental shock that adults could do this to each other. To try to hang on to that initial shock, try to recreate it or to re-evoke it, or to track it back in yourself when working with something is part of the tasks of the film. The amnesia which people have about what South Africa was and where we've come from, on the one hand, it's a kind of a willful amnesia, but on the other hand, it does correspond to such a quick naturalization of the circumstances that we live in. It's kind of hard to remember what that world was. Take a half a step this way. That's it. Start. We are making this for an opera house in Venice. It's a projection which is seen while an audience comes in and the orchestra is tuning.
Hello, this is the composer calling. I'll play you some chords, and then I'm going to kind of play along with you a little bit, okay? Just talk a bit, sing a bit, talk a bit. Good, hang on, I'm just trying to line this up. That's all right. Okay, all right, here we go. All right. Can you hear that? Okay, when you're ready. Kimmy, stop, okay. Okay, let's just do that phrase,
Let me just say something to you and Philip.
Okay.
Okay, to both of you. Phil, one of the things that would be good is to not so much repeat a whole phrase, but to jump, to break in the middle of a phrase and repeat. So like where you've got Babo Pietà, but to Babo Pier, try this. When you complete it at the ta, it feels too elegant as a completed gesture. Initially, I think he'd done the recording on the cell phone as a guide track. And then we heard the recording on the cell phone and said, let's keep it and work with that strange Caruso-esque old quality of the voice. Which is why today there are